Hello and welcome to Marketing Optimization with Alex Designs. I'm your host, Alex Harris, and today we have Ryan Carson here from Treehouse. How you doing, Ryan?
Good. Thanks for having me on the show.
Well, Ryan and I met back in the day in 2008, 2009 when he brought the Future of Web Apps conference to Miami, and it was really such an inspirational conference for me. I was able to meet Jason Fried, Neil Patel, and all the people who really I want to bring on the show, but especially someone who came out and gave a keynote on his last speech and basically wanted to give everybody free wine, and that was Gary Vaynerchuk.
Oh, yeah. I forgot about that.
Yeah, that was basically the turning point, and he was a huge inspiration for my career, and probably for you too, because I see you hustling and going from business to business, learning every step of the way. How's everything going with Treehouse?
Good. Yeah, good. We've really transitioned the whole business from back when I met you. You know, I've had about 4 businesses over time, and the last one that I worked on with you was the events and conference business, and we just really wanted to reach more people. You know, we wanted to give people web design, web development, mobile development skills, but at a much larger scale, and we just couldn't do that in the physical conference space. So we decided to kind of morph the conference idea and teach online. And so now Treehouse is going full speed. We're up to 60 people, full-time employees, and yeah, thankfully it's just really working. It's the biggest business I've ever run, and just having an amazing time. So
yeah, I mean, you have to be basically one of the most forward-thinking people that I've ever met. I mean, back in the day, you're talking, creating the Future of a Web Apps conference, but you were a designer and developer before that, and you've always been part of the community and really, you know, pushing back to the community, especially, you know, the East Coast and Florida specifically, opening Treehouse in Orlando, bringing the conferences to Miami. But what I've really seen from you is that you have great intuition. You're able to really read people really well and figure out how you can create better partnerships so you can leverage that in the future. And that's really been a major inspiration. And going to your conferences is one of the biggest inspirations for the show.
Thank you. Appreciate that.
Yeah, I mean, I started photographing conferences in 2007 when I went to Future Web Design in New York, and I've basically been photographing and videotaping conferences ever since. So definitely a huge inspiration. And
cool.
And you learned how, you taught me, along with the people who spoke at your conferences, how to turn your passion into profit. And I've seen you build so many different teams, and you are a true leader of those teams. You have a business goal, and you create good relationships with all your employees, I'm sure, but you need to grow that business. And you've learned it in the right ways, the wrong ways, in every single way.
Thanks.
Let's talk about that hustle and how it applies to really web marketing. You know, going from conferences to essentially a SaaS product, Treehouse, where you have customer service and a huge team now. I'm sure you're probably your biggest team so far. What have you learned by growing a team so quickly and trying to figure out how to still maintain an ROI?
I think the biggest thing that I've learned is that you don't know what's going to work, and I think that's why you know, I've called my blog The Naive Optimist, and I generally approach everything that way. That, you know, it appears that, you know, successful entrepreneurs like Steve Jobs know exactly what the right answers are and what they should build. But, you know, every entrepreneur I've met, you know, no matter how successful they are, never knows if they're succeeding until after it happens. And then it looks like they knew, you know, like Kevin Systrom with Instagram. You know, he spoke at Future of Mobile a bunch of times. We were buddies, and, you know, he emailed me when they launched Instagram and said, "Hey, check it out." And then he sold it for $1 billion, you know, and it's easy to look at that and think, wow, he just, you know, executed perfectly, knew exactly what he was doing. And I'm sure he would say that, you know, they had no idea it was going to succeed. And then it worked. So, that's always been my approach, you know, and I don't know how to, every day is something I've not done before at Treehouse, because this is the biggest company I've run. And I think we try to approach it with humility and hard work. You know, we can figure this out, and we will, but we don't presume we know what we're doing. And that often relates to marketing. We kind of have the theory that um, marketing will never have to stop trying, and probably 80% of what we're doing won't really work. So we have campaign after campaign that we try, site after site we try, different you know different methodologies, different thoughts. And I think what we realize is, gosh, most of the ideas we have in marketing just aren't going to work. But let's measure them, and then as soon as we know they're not working, let's move on. um, and that seems to be working for us. We have a couple channels that are going to scale really well for us. YouTube is one of those, and we're just we're never going to stop trying. It's kind of tiring. I wish we could just have some infinite scaling channel that we just dump money into, and there you go. But I don't think it's going
Yeah.
to happen.
Have that magic recipe, that secret sauce every single time, but it just doesn't work like that anymore. You can't put anything up and it work right away. So that brings me. Let's just jump right into the meat of the show. How are you guys optimizing Treehouse marketing campaigns to maximize your ROI and really raise the bar with every single release?
Well, we're trying a couple things. We have, like everyone that watches your show, a clear idea of how much we want to pay to acquire a customer. And so, for us, that's based off of a lifetime value, which is particularly applicable to SaaS businesses. But if you don't have a SaaS business, you obviously know what your average value of a customer is. So we work backwards from there, and the way we primarily optimize is we look at conversion rate, and we use a tool called Mixpanel. And probably a lot of your audience uses Mixpanel. Mixpanel has been more powerful for us than Google Analytics, because it's simpler in a way. Like, hey, here's an event, I want to log it. It can be anything I can imagine. And then let's create a funnel on that. And we just watch our funnels very carefully, and we aim for a certain conversion rate. And for us, though, conversion is just the beginning of the puzzle. The second half of that is really how long can we encourage you to stay a student, and that's really where we will make most of our revenue, by keeping you learning. So we work really hard at that. And then I guess some specific things we're doing is we're working on landing pages and trying different messages. We're using video on some of them. Some of them we're using different offers, like free month or 50% off your first month. And again, it's come down to just pure testing. And some weird things haven't worked very well. We thought that something like free trials was just going to blow everything out of the water and be amazing. And free trials, it's like, it hasn't really performed. It's okay. So again, that's an example of, gosh, we thought this was going to be amazing, but it's kind of seems the same. So I'm sure that you guys feel this all the time. There's a kind of frustrating of like, that didn't really move the needle. It wasn't worse, but it wasn't better. It's like a frustrating feeling. So that's primarily how we do it.
So yeah, as you were starting the business and you were, I guess, maybe shopping to investors, or how is that different from where you are today? Are you still trying to get to product market fit, or do you think you've achieved it?
I think we've started to achieve product market fit. We're growing, thankfully, at a very fast rate, and we charge real money for our product. And so thankfully we're growing very fast. But the one thing that I did right, looking back, is that I built up, a reputation in the industry by doing events. And so looking back, we had done future web apps, future web design, future mobile, for years, almost 7 years. I put in time, building a community and being part of that. And then when we launched Treehouse, which actually was called Think Vitamin Membership initially, we had a platform to launch it to. So it appeared that we had an overnight success, but the truth was, we put in, 7 years. Sorry, someone's here. Hello. yeah, we put in, 7 years of hard work to get to that overnight success, which sounds like a cliche, but it really seems true. But events are such a powerful way. I mean, you know what it's like. You get connected. You become, if you organize the event, you are kind of the connector, and everyone at the event starts to see you on stage with the speakers, and they equate you as equals. So when I was lucky enough to interview people like Mark Zuckerberg or Evan Williams or Kevin Rose or all these huge name people, I'm on stage, people somehow equate, well, I guess Ryan somehow must be connected or on the same level, or something is happening there. Then that gets you connected. So then when we launched the business, it got profitable, and then we decided to raise money. The reason why it was so easy to raise money is because I was already connected to these wealthy, connected people, and they liked me. They knew me, and that made raising money so easy. But that's because of all the hard work beforehand. So.
How are you guys really, taking what you learn from your customers, that feedback? And for instance, I know you guys just released a new redesign. What did you learn from your previous customers that allowed you to iterate and figure out what to redesign for them?
We try to listen as much as we can to our students. So we actually um, have a cancellation survey. So whenever you cancel your Treehouse account, there's a survey you can fill out, and you'd be surprised at how many people will do that, and also how transparent they are. And a lot of them are they're almost shockingly personal. Some people will say things like, "Oh, I just got divorced and my life is falling apart. I got to cancel my account." Oh my gosh, so sad. So actually contact those people and say, "Hey, well, can we help you out? If maybe we can give you a free month to get you back on your feet or something." But a lot of people just say things like, "Hey, the site's hard to navigate. I can't find what I'm looking for. I can't remember where I was. Like, this is just too hard." So after hearing enough of that feedback, we just wound that into the new design. Hey, let's just make it a lot simpler to understand where you are at in the curriculum, and also what we offer. So that was one of the main goals. The other goal was just to make it easier in general to use. So I'm sure all of your audience knows, the better the user experience is of your site, probably the more sales you'll have, just because it's a more delightful experience. So we just try to think holistically. Hey, how can we make our students' lives better, and easier, and then we'll benefit from that at some point. Um, and we also technically wanted to align the design with the iPad app. So we released an iPad app before, and it had sort of leapfrogged the design of the current site. So then we wanted to bring the current site in line with that, and make that a more coherent experience. We've done a couple things on the homepage that are interesting. Our homepage is totally different now. And we have what's called a hero image. You're probably familiar with that. And, you have a woman using a computer. It looks like she's learning. And we're going to test that. So far it's been a good bump in conversion, but isn't like shocking. But as you know, there is very few shocking changes you can make to a page to get shocking conversion, differences. It's all kind of 0.2, 0.1, 0.05. But one interesting thing we have found is, I mean, our students tend to respond to women better, probably because they're men. And so we will probably end up using more images of women, obviously in a tasteful, appropriate way, but just our audience responds to that a little bit more. So yeah, looking forward to trying that out more. And so far the site's seems to have caused a general uplift in signups, but again, it's that frustrating problem of not knowing exactly what's causing it. So we're trying to drill down to that, but it just seems like a lot of this ends up being gut instinct. It seems like the right decision. It appears to affect conversion, but you're not sure exactly why.
Yeah, if somehow if you're able to get those analytics in, and whether it's people who were influenced to increase lifetime value or whatever, maybe you can figure out the map of those ideal personas that you're targeting, and figure out different ways that you can test them. I don't know if you're doing specific campaigns to certain type of someone who wants to learn JavaScript versus, I don't know, Ruby or whatever. Is that something you do where you differentiate segments of demographics?
Yep. Yeah. So we definitely do content specific targeting and PPC targeting and we're starting to get a lot more granular on that. We actually are starting to do retargeting on specific content areas. Retargeting is great for us. A very powerful mechanism. We love that, and that's partly because our product is the type of thing that takes you a month to decide if you're going to buy. You're deciding to basically go to school. So that works very well for us.
Your classes are teaching everything, and you're pretty smart in development. What is the future of the internet? What are people learning, and where's it going?
I think in general, what we'll see is, basic technical literacy is going to become a mandatory part of every professional's life. A real understanding of how the web works, how to control the web, how to deal with mobile. Responsive, having a responsive site now is mandatory. And if you don't have that, you're already falling behind. In fact, you probably should also have, an app, to complement that. So we're seeing, the pace is getting faster and people are getting left behind faster. But the good news is, thankfully, there's, schools like Treehouse and others that are designed to keep you up to date because it's too overwhelming. And if you get a college degree, it's obviously out of date as soon as you graduate and it doesn't continue. So we're trying to create a school that basically you could go to school for life for a very affordable price, less than cable per month, and then stay up to date and then get a job. And you'd be surprised, one thing that's encouraging is seeing the amount of women that are signing up for Treehouse, because there isn't the stigma of, getting a computer science degree and going to school with a bunch of men. And I think we're probably going to see the rise of women in technology. They're probably going to kick our guys' ass pretty soon if we don't,
That's awesome. That's really great for the space because there's certainly not enough women speakers. Probably way less women developers. That's for sure. What have you learned from your past and some advice for people in the future?
Sure. I try to blog about my experiences at my blog at ryancarson.com. Feel free if anyone that wants to come by there. And if you want to email me, it's just ryan@teamtreehouse.com or ryan@ryancarson.com. The biggest thing that I've learned is just to try to be naively optimistic about it. If you're educated enough to be watching this show or listening to this show, you are already ahead of, some huge percentage of the world. You're healthy, you have technology, you're already motivated. There really isn't any reason that you can't have the life that you want to have, um, and one thing I just basically learned is that it appears that people knew what they're doing, but no one does. Everybody starts at zero. Everybody learns from scratch, and every huge monumental task started with knowing nothing. So just encourage people to try not to think too much about the scary parts, and instead just go for it and see where it leads.